Warning: this video was created for educational purpose. The main goal is to provide scientific and public health related information in an understandable, easily digestible manner, with a portion of humor. Might contain disturbing disease-related images and information. Hello and welcome. In today's video we will be talking about chemicals that can largely affect human life and health. About dioxins. What are they? Dioxins and dioxin-like compounds are primary examples of persistent organic pollutants that induce toxicity in both wildlife and humans. Over the past 200 years, these compounds have been almost exclusively generated by human activity and have left a string of disasters in the wake of their accidental release. Epidemiologic data on human and ecological dioxin exposures have revealed a common pattern of biological response among vertebrate species, which is mediated through activation of cellular enzymatic receptor, aryl hydrocarbon receptor, in short AHR. These AHR-mediated effects include profound consequences on the vertebrate individual exposed in early life with respect to a myriad developmental endpoints, including neurologic, immunologic, and reproductive parameters. While dioxins are generated naturally through such processes as forest fires and volcanic eruptions, it is human activity which has been primarily responsible for the generation of this class of chemicals over the past 2 centuries. Historically, industrial activities were the largest sources of dioxin and dioxin-like compounds, but many responsible processes have since been regulated, and today, uncontrolled combustion, such as burning of household waste in open containers, is the greater concern. In addition to their infrequent natural occurrence, dioxins are of interest in their intrinsic toxicological potency and their varied and extensive adverse health consequences. And now let's have a quick look on the history of dioxin-related disasters that happened due to accidental release of this chemical compound in the environment. Later on we will discuss the impact of dioxins on human health and life using a selected example. 1949. An explosion in a Monsanto chemical plant in Nitro, West Virginia, resulted in the exposure of workers to the dioxin-contaminated herbicide labeled as 2,4,5-T, and persistent chloracne was observed. Later studies on this and other occupationally dioxin-exposed workers demonstrated an increase in all cancers combined in the most highly exposed workers. Between 1962 and 1970, Agent Orange, the American military code name for an herbicide containing 2,4,5-T and contaminated again with the most toxic dioxin, was used as a defoliant in Vietnam to reduce enemy ground cover as part of Operation Range Hand. Recent studies of the Range Hand cohort have revealed that American military exposures to Agent Orange were associated with an increased risk of diabetes and an increased risk of multiple cancers, with increased duration of potential exposure conditions. In 1968 in Kyushu, Japan, as well as in 1979 in Taiwan, a rice bran oil company's supplies became contaminated with dioxin-like compounds, and the contaminated oil was sold and fed to livestock and humans, resulting in skin lesions, fatigue, and altered reproductive and immunologic functions as symptoms in humans. The disease was referred to as Yusho in Japanese or Yuchang in Chinese. In 1971, an entire town in the United States was exposed to high levels of dioxins when contaminated waste oil was spread on the dirt roads of Times Beach, Missouri, in order to control dust. In the very same year, dioxin-like compounds were identified as teratogens. In 1976, in Seveso, Italy, an explosion occurred at an Italian chemical plant producing 2,4,5-T. Because of the nature of the uncontrolled reaction that produced the explosion, not only was dioxin released into the outside environment when the facility was breached, but its levels were far higher than the normal range of 1 ppm for contamination of 2,4,5-T and may have approached 100 ppm. In the years that followed, Continuing studies of the exposed population supported the potential for dioxins to act as carcinogens in humans and to increase risk for diabetes, adverse cardiovascular effects, and altered endocrine function. Final example, Belgium, 1999. An overwhelming percentage of national livestock were given dioxin-contaminated feed that resulted in the massive international recall of products containing meat or dairy from the affected animals. And now let's refer to health effects in humans. Adverse health effects of dioxin exposure in humans may include cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, porphyria, endometriosis, early menopause, reduced testosterone and thyroid hormones, altered immunologic response, skin, tooth and nail abnormalities, altered growth factor signaling, and altered metabolism. The effects of dioxin exposure during development are also many and include altered thyroid and immune status, altered neurobehavior at the level of hearing, psychomotor function, and gender-related behaviors, congenital malformation, altered cognition, dentition, and development of reproductive organs, and delays in breast development, in addition to altered sex ratios among the exposed offspring. Needless to say that all this dramatically decreases the quality of life to those exposed at an adult stage, or simply denies a healthy and happy existing to those being in the womb at the moment of exposure. Vietnam War best supports all of these scientific findings, as adverse health consequences have been largely reported on both sides. Historically, as much as 20,000 million gallons, equaling nearly 75 million liters of herbicides such as Agent Orange, and Agent Orange was the predominantly used one, were sprayed over a surface area as large as 6% of the total surface area of Vietnam. In addition to massive environmental devastation and contamination for decades to follow, Vietnamese nation has reported that some 400,000 people were killed or maimed as a result of exposure to herbicides like Agent Orange. In addition, Vietnam claims 500,000 children have been born with serious birth defects, while as many as 2 million people are suffering from cancer or other illnesses caused by dioxin-related compounds. Furthermore, questions regarding Agent Orange arose in the United States after an increasing number of returning Vietnam veterans and their families began to report a range of afflictions, including rashes and other skin irritations, miscarriages, psychological symptoms, type 2 diabetes, birth defects in children, and cancers such as Hodgkin's disease, prostate cancer, and leukemia. Let's break all of this down to some simple key facts as provided by the World Health Organization. 1. Dioxins are a group of chemically related compounds that are persistent environmental pollutants. 2. Dioxins are found throughout the world in the environment, and they accumulate in the food chain, mainly in the fatty tissue of animals. 3. More than 90% of human exposure is through food, mainly meat and dairy products, fish and shellfish. Many national authorities have programs in place to monitor the food supply. 4. Dioxins are highly toxic and can cause reproductive and developmental problems, damage the immune system, interfere with hormones, and also cause cancer. 5. Due to the omnipresence of dioxins, all people have background exposure, which is not expected to affect human health. However, due to the highly toxic potential, efforts need to be undertaken to reduce current background exposure. 6. Prevention or reduction of human exposure is best done via source-directed measures, for example, strict control of industrial processes to reduce formation of dioxins.